Now, when will this take place, Pastor? Well, let me give you a real quick timeline. First of all, the next event on God's timetable is the rapture. Remember last week we saw there will be a generation alive and remain when the Lord returns. And I'm running to be in that generation. And so, anyway, hopefully, and we'll be caught up together in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, and meet the Lord in the air, the rapture. Then the church will be removed from the earth, and that's why Israel's in its land again, and God will turn his attention to use Israel. He owes them one more week of years, 7 years. And so we then have the tribulation, which is described in Revelation 6 through 19. And the Antichrist coming on the scene, and the world will be in such a dire straits as we see it moving into now, and the nations of the world swimming in red ink in terrible situations financially, and they will come together and say, we got to do something, and there will be one leader emerge. He's called the Antichrist, and he will bring the nations of the world together. He will have supernatural power given to him not by God, but by the devil. And remember, Jesus ministered for 3.5 years. The Antichrist will minister for 3.5 years, and and the whole world will follow him, and we'll have the mark that he gives out and so forth. He will so-called for a time temporarily solve the world problems. He will bring peace to the world. He will be a so-called wonderful leader for a while. And then in the midst of those 7 years, there will be a breakout and horrible mess, and it will culminate with the battle of Armageddon. And where are we at during this tribulation? We are with the Lord in that intermediate heaven that we talked about last week, and it's the judgment seat of Christ. What's the judgment seat of Christ? It has to do with rewards for service, not salvation. Only the believers are there. Salvation is already settled, but it's rewards for service, because there are degrees of rewards in heaven. And then we have the return of Christ when he comes back to the earth. And then we have the millennial reign. Milli meaning 1,000, and annum meaning years, 1,000-year reign of Christ upon the earth in the restored condition. And then we have the great white throne judgment. This is the judgment of unbelievers, and it is recorded in Revelation chapter 20, and there are degrees of punishment in hell, and they are handed out at that time, the great white throne. And then that's when we have this transformation of a new world, a new earth and a new heaven, and we have eternity. And so eternity follows the great white throne judgment. Now, you saw that verse in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10, and I know we went over that timeline very, very quickly, and we'll go over it again in weeks to come. But in 2 Peter 3:10, it talks about how this world will be burned up and so forth, and the interpretation, will God destroy the earth? Will it be done away with? Is it just completely gone? No, not at all. The NIV translate that verse in 2 Peter 3:10. The earth and everything in it will be laid bare. It is purified. It is not destroyed and done away with totally. The material elements of the current earth will disintegrate, and from them God will make a new earth. And there are two words for new in the Greek. And Peter here uses the new in terms of quality. Not in terms of never existing before. No, God is taking this earth and making it new. Sort of like making a 46 Ford look like a new one, and better than it looked the day it was on the showroom floor, And God's going to take an old world and make it new. The present earth will be cleansed, purified, a new version of the original. All corruption is taken away. Every stain of sin is gone. Every trace of death is removed. It is new, but it is not another world. It is the same world, the same heaven, the same earth, but gloriously rejuvenated. I was talking to my wife about this last night and explained it to her just a little bit, and she said, "Oh, you mean kind of like a forest fire? It destroys the forest," quote, destroys, and yet you come back a few years later, and all these little seedlings are coming up, and new green grass, and it really purified the forest, is what it did. It looked like it destroyed it, and maybe it did for a time, but not totally destroyed. And so with the earth, God will not destroy his creation. He will make it pure once again. And we have an illustration of it. It happened one other time. And in this passage of 2 Peter, Peter refers back to that happening. And we see it here, 2 Peter 3, 5, and 7. By the word of God, the heavens existed long ago, and the earth was formed out of water and by water, and through which, now here's a phrase I want you to see. Are you awake? Oh, good. One of you. through which the world at that time was destroyed, being flooded with water. If you have your pen out, I want you to underline that little sentence. The world at that time was destroyed, being flooded with water. Now, was it destroyed so it was no more? No, not at all. It wasn't destroyed so it was no more, but God says the world was destroyed. Now, it was destroyed to a great extent. I mean, when Noah came out of the ark, there were no people left. There were no animals in the world, only what was in that ark. And so it was destroyed in that respect. God uses this as an illustration as to how the world's going to be destroyed by fire at the end. Let's read on. By his word, the present heavens and earth are being reserved for fire, kept for the day of judgment and destruction of ungodly men. So the world will be destroyed again, but not totally wiped out, not totally taken away. No, it will be rejuvenated, just as it was, so to speak, by the flood. And so a new world and a new heavens and a new earth. And what are the principles? Number 3, the principles of the new heaven and the new earth. What kind of home will this renovated earth be like? Well, first of all, Revelation 21, we see this. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away, and there was no longer any ocean. The oceans, the seas are gone. The new earth that we're going to have in eternity will have no oceans on it. 3/4 of the surface of the earth is covered by oceans. The salt seas, the oceans. And the oceans are gone. The ecology of the earth is totally different. The New Jerusalem is described as having water. There will be a river of life flowing from the throne of God and coming down and watering those beautiful trees along that river. And I believe on our new earth that we will live on in eternity with the New Jerusalem, the capital city, and with heaven. And all together, that beautiful earth will have a lot of water. I think it's going to have some great lakes like we have the Great Lakes. And there'll be some wonderful beaches, but they will not be salt water. Salt is a preservative, and there will be no decay in the new world. And so no oceans in the new earth that we're going to have. Secondly, not only removal of the sea, but a removal of the curse of sin. When Adam and Eve sinned, and I'm going to read it to you. This is not on the screen. I'm going to turn back to it. In Genesis chapter 3, listen to this. Then God said to Adam, because you've listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying you shall not eat from it, cursed is the ground because of you. This world is cursed. The earth is cursed. In toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. If you leave something neglected, like we've done this construction and there's this dirt around here, and Brother Fred has seeded it, and he's thankful for the rain today. And but he has seeded it. And if you just left it to its own, would grass grow on it? Not very much. Thorns, thistles, it would look bad. It would be bad news. Why? Because the ground is cursed, God says. Cursed is the ground. Thorns and thistles shall grow for you, and you will eat of the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread, till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. Wow. There's the curse. I want to tell you something. This world is cursed. We live in a cursed world, not just the earth itself. Yes, the earth itself, the ground itself. But my heart and your heart, we are born with sin, and we have a world of crime, and we have a world of selfishness, and we have a world of sadness, and we have a world of tears. Oh, I know we have a lot of beauty. I love this time of year, don't you? I think it's a little glimpse of heaven, spring, new life, and it's beautiful. But it's also a very difficult world, and a lot of tears and a lot of sadness. And I want you to know, in the new world, in eternity, the curse is removed.